home to the onside kick. Ricky Whitmer here along with Mark Weber.
How's it going, guys?
And Dave Oster will not be with us this evening. Mark, he sent me a text and he's like, you know what, bro? I'm going back to bed.
You know, the thing about Dave Oster is he's very tired at all times.
He's a very sleepy cat.
Yeah, well, basically he is a cat. You know, cats sleep 20 hours a day.
Do they?
Yeah, so
you're
does
the
Dave Oster.
cat owner. I am a dog owner.
Oh, I have a
myself.
dog as well.
Well, I got 2 dogs, no cats. You have a
True.
cat.
I have 3 cats. I have a lot of cats. There's a lot of cats in my house. There's a lot of animals in my house, to be specific.
But so you would know more about cats than I would.
Yeah, they sleep for 20 hours a day.
That's basically Dave's life.
Yeah, pretty much. Doesn't work. Doesn't work at all.
I was going to say, all he does is work and sleep.
Nope. Doesn't do any work all day, just sleeps.
Well, today on the podcast, we're going to obviously be talking some football. The Bears going to look at the Bears-Vikings game. We're probably going to look at that quick because Ricky doesn't want to talk about it, to be honest.
We're going to spend about 15 minutes on it.
And then we're going to look at the Sunday night matchup between the Bears and the Vikings, talk a little bit about the Chicago Blackhawks preseason going on, going to preview their season a little bit today before doing a full preview next week. Might talk about a little baseball from here and then finish out the show with some national football. But, Mark, Bears beat the Vikings 31-30. Jay Cutler with the fourth quarter comeback to Martellus Bennett for the 16-yard touchdown pass.
And that's 2 comeback victories in a row, which is impressive. It's very good to see, and it shows that this team, which has a lot of raw talent, can get it done. Unfortunately, there's a lot of mistakes in this game. There's a lot of bad moments.
You contained AP.
Yeah, and that was
or
something.
AD,
and that was
something
that was very important. That was very crucial. We did that, and then obviously Ponder, he did decently, but nothing to be too thrilled about. So we got that. The problem was that we made stupid mistakes. Like example, letting Cordero Patterson get a 105-yard kick return on the very opening kick.
Yeah, but I mean, and he's on my fantasy team, or was. I think I dropped him. But one of the things I thought of was, oh, great. That's all he's going to do today.
Yeah, exactly. Besides that, I mean, Jay Cutler's 2 interceptions. There was some
that's Jay.
Rough turnover action.
Jay's going to throw some INTs.
Well, you knew the goal line one was very fluky, where it bounced off of multiple players out there and just happens to fall into the hands of a Vikings defender. So, I mean, you just had some bad breaks for the Chicago Bears. Luckily, we didn't let that get us down.
And the one thing I want to mention is just the start of the game. Cordell Patterson, 105 yards for a touchdown. On the next kick, I thought Devin Hester was going to take it to the house. He goes 76 yards, puts the Bears in Minnesota territory to start the game.
He was very close multiple times. I mean, he just needs one more. That's the thing. He just needs one more. And I actually said that in this game right after the first one. I said, just let him get one more kickoff or any kind of return. Let him get one more touchdown. He's so close in this game, and you can see that just being able to concentrate on the kick return is helping him out so much.
And I mean, one thing I noticed from the Bears against the Vikings, and we talked about it after week 1 against the Bengals, and we saw it more in this game. Did Brandon Marshall, was he tied for the most targets from Jay Cutler? Yes, but he wasn't alone. Matt Forte had 10 targets along with Marshall. Bennett, I'm talking about Martellus Bennett, not Earl Bennett, 9 targets, and then you got Alshon Jeffrey, 5 targets, but only 1 catch.
And Martellus Bennett is on top of the world right now. He is our guy who got it done. Fantastic receptions, fantastic just beating his man, getting open, creating that mismatch.
How many people do you think went right after, maybe after week 1, but more so this week, was like, you know what, I got to see if this guy is a free agent in my league?
Oh, I think there's plenty of people checking. Unfortunately for a lot of those people, he was probably already taken.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate part for a lot of those owners that have him, he was probably sitting on their bench.
Well, and I mean, another thing we talked about last week, I'm trying to think in my head, the things we talked about with the Bears in the preseason. New acquisition at tight end. Check. Paying dividends. Offensive line. Last week, Jay Cutler wasn't on his back. This week, 1 official sack, 8 yards. But when you have Jared Allen, 1 is pretty good.
Yeah, it was. You knew there was going to be a sack. somewhere, if not more than one. The fact that they only let up one against Jared Allen is a big deal. That was great. So the offensive line, I'm happy. And you know who else is happy? Jay Cutler. He's very happy behind those young rookies out there. So there's nothing to be upset about in that case.
The only thing that was bad about that sack, and I'm looking at the play-by-play, it came on a 3rd and 9 in the second quarter. Jared Allen sacking Jay Cutler on the Minnesota 37. Fumble recovered by Robinson. Touchdown, 61 yards.
Yeah, it's another one of those mistakes. Things not going our way, not keeping that contain on the ball. I mean, he needed... the thing is, he needed that Phil Simms lesson on how to hold a ball.
That Phil Simms, that made me crack up. You're referring to the Manning Bowl.
And the Manning Bowl, when Phil Simms somebody decided, hey, Phil, we need you to show us how to hold a football. And just stare into the camera for 10 seconds.
That's the creepiest face I've ever seen.
This might weird a few people out, and especially fans of Phil Simms, but my first thought was, this is a man who might molest your children. He just has that look.
I can't disagree with you, though, because look at his face. Look at his face.
It's intense. Very intense.
But, I mean, overall, Bears, 4 turnovers, Vikings, 3. And if you're the Bears right now, you're feeling a little bit on the top of the world because not only did you pull out a win against a Bengals team that showed, hey, we can get the job done against the Steelers team on Monday Night Football, but they also get a come from behind winning from the skin of their teeth against a divisional foe, because if the Bears lose this game, it's worse than if they would lose against the Bengals because it's in the AFC North.
Well, plus, we got to remember that for the Bears, getting the first win of the division, that's good. That's showing we are on top of the division. The rest of you have to deal with us. And that's huge.
Well, and that's true because Green Bay in week 1, they lose to San Francisco. You got Detroit losing to Arizona this past week in week number 2.
And Detroit, they did beat the Vikings already, but the Bears, just overall record, already ahead of the Lions. So we've got good things coming our way if we can stop the mistakes.
You know what I also find funny, and this is going to kind of bridge us into the Sunday night matchup between the Bears and the Steelers? We do a Madden simulation each week before the Sunday game. Each simulation has picked the Bears to lose, and then the Bears come out on top.
I noticed it as well. I noticed it after we did it, where I had this, and I was like, the Bears lost in the Madden simulation, but we lost in week 1, and we did just fine. So I wasn't too concerned. It seems that, for whatever reason, the Madden simulation just is very low on the Chicago Bears. And the thing is, too, it tends that the Bears games are always very low scoring as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, now going into, we're obviously going to put out a Madden simulation for this week, Bears-Steelers. The Steelers coming off of a Monday night debacle, I'm going to say, against their divisional foes, the Cincinnati Bengals. They're now at the bottom of the AFC North. On the other side, you got the Bears coming off a comeback win, top of the world, NFC North.
Exactly. This is going to be an interesting game because the Steelers, they got to get something going on. They're just kind of a mess right now, especially with that coaching staff. I said earlier today that I don't know how much longer Todd Haley can keep his job.
So you think they're gonna pull a Texas Longhorns and fire him mid-season? Or do you think they should?
4-0, Todd Haley's got to go. That's what I say.
Do you see them going 4-0? Obviously, I'm going to say right now.
0-4, I should say.
I see them going 0-3 because I don't think they can beat the Bears, but they got the Vikings in week 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's two teams that are kind of hanging out on the bottom, but the play calling for the Steelers has been awful. There's no understanding of the players on the team. They can't get any momentum on offense. And that defense, yeah, it's a good defense, but it's falling apart because they just get tired by the third quarter because they've been out there for so long.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm looking at the stats from the Monday night game against Cincinnati. Your leading rusher, Felix Jones, 10 carries, 37 yards. Big Ben, 250 yards, a touchdown, an INT, 2 sacks. And I feel like this offense, without Mike Wallace being that. I mean, you got Emmanuel Sanders. He's doing a fine job. They have a tight end among committee. They have like 4 tight ends, or 3 of them, all fighting to fill in, I believe it's Heath Miller's spot. And one of them is David Paulson, former Oregon Duck. Gotta throw that Oregon name throw out there, or name drop out there. But, I mean, you're missing Wallace. There's your number 1 target. Isaac Redman, he got benched. Only 3 carries on Monday night for 4 yards. That's a guy who, coming into the season, I thought was going to be starting. Oh, wait, that's right. You also don't have your starting center in Pouncey.
Yeah, it's a mess out there. I mean, there's just no guy really taking the lead right now. And you'd think it would be Big Ben Roethlisberger, but he's not, commanding everybody out there either. There's just nothing going for the Steelers right now, and it's kind of unfortunate because, I mean, just a few years ago, Steelers are huge. They're the big bad guys out there in the AFC
curtain.
North. Yeah. And now they're a joke. I mean, everybody's saying fire. Someone's got to get fired out there. That's what everybody's saying right now. And, yeah, it's a home game for the Steelers, so that certainly helps. Primetime game for the Bears, that certainly hurts. But
yeah, but the one thing I will say about the Bears, I don't know, after these first 2 games with Mark Trestman at the helm, I don't know if the primetime curse is going to be a factor.
Well, we're figuring more things out about the offense, and our defense pretty much has everything figured out.
Oh, wait, you actually have a coach that knows how to work an offense? What?
I know.
Huh?
It's something that we're not used to in Chicago, and it's something that Steeler fans should be jealous of, a coach who's kind of getting that offense going. So the Steelers, I mean, I don't know. I don't see a way that they get it put together now. I mean, maybe they can get somebody else to come in later in the season, but until they get somebody who is competent to control and run that offense out there and the coaching staff, this is not a good team. This is not a team that can win games.
The way I see it is, I mean, if the Bears right now looking at that Sunday night game, they got to be saying, well, if the Bengals can sack Ben Roethlisberger twice, we should at least be able to get 5. Maybe that's me throwing out a huge number. I'm being not realistic, but I think the defense is going to have a big game. They're also looking, Cincinnati only forced 2 turnovers. We forced Cincinnati for 3 turnovers. We should be able to do the same against the Steelers, if not more.
Yeah, Roethlisberger obviously has been having some trouble there. That's what happens when you don't have a good guy you can rely on out there to throw the ball to.
Or if you don't have a run game. If your running back's only getting 37 yards in a game, that's not good because, I mean, yes, we talk about this being a pass-happy league in the NFL, but when it comes down to it, you still need to be able to run the football to set up the pass.
I mean, a big thing that the Bears are going to have to watch out for, obviously, because every team has to watch out for, is Troy Polamalu. Because that guy,
well,
he can
look at what he did week 1 when he jumped the snap and got Locker.
Yep. He is a dangerous guy on defense. And, we got gunslinger Jay Cutler out there. You know that Troy Polamalu is thinking, I can get a few interceptions in this game.
Yeah, but the one thing I feel like is if Troy starts creeping up on that line, Mark Trestman, call a little bootleg, fly route to Marshall, tutty.
And Marshall, of course, is going to have to be worrying about Ike Taylor, who, I think, from the Cincinnati game, I think John Gruden was a little too excited about Ike Taylor. And at least the modern Ike Taylor. He's not as good as he used to be, but he's still going to be somebody that's going to be putting up a fight against Brandon Marshall.
And the one thing I will say, and I'm not throwing salt in your wounds, just want to say that right now, Mark, because I know you have him on fantasy. I will say that maybe this success for the Bears is going to have to run more through Matt Forte than Brandon Marshall. Because, I mean, A.J. Green on the Bengals, 6 receptions, 41 yards. He only had 8 fantasy points in that game. Their top receivers were their 2 tight ends, Gresham and Eifert. That should speak boatloads for Bennett coming into this game with how well Martellus is playing. And then also, Giovanni Bernard has a huge game for the Bengals, so why shouldn't Matt Forte have one for the Bears?
And it's been shown that Mark Trestman really likes having the offense go to Matt Forte very often.
10 targets last week.
He wants Matt Forte to be a big part of not only the run game, but the passing game.
And he should.
And then you got Bennett out there, Martellus Bennett, who's just, he's catching everything that comes his way. He's being fantastic at creating a mismatch, at just kind of saying, I don't care if you cover me, I'm going to catch this ball anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. And those two elements are huge. And then, of course, Brandon Marshall. He's Brandon Marshall. He's going to get things done. He's going to have fantastic games always. There's nothing to be kind of worried about on the offensive side if our game plan works correctly and we avoid mistakes. Those are the two things we need to get right now.
Well, kind of to wrap this up, I'm going to throw it to you. I'm picking the Bears. How about you? Bears, Steelers.
Without a doubt, I'm picking the Bears on this one. We got to get it done here.
Okay, Mark, now let's turn our attention from the football field to the nice cold ice of the NHL, and in specific, the Chicago Blackhawks. Preseason hockey is in a ice arena near you. The Blackhawks defending Stanley Cup champions, 2-1 in the preseason so far. Just got a 5-4 shutout victory, or not shutout, shootout victory against the Washington Capitals, and I'm just going to throw out a general easy question. What can we expect from the defending champs this year?
Well, they're definitely going to be one of the competing teams, one of the contending teams for the Stanley Cup. They've got not everything, but they've got everything they need returning again. The biggest thing I would say they lost was Ray Emery. He's the biggest thing they lost, and he is your backup goalie.
Yeah, but who do we pick up? Nikolai Javy-Bulin.
You got the
Brought
Bulin
back the
wall
Hawk.
out there. He's old, but he can get it done. Anyways, it's interesting. The thing I take out of the preseason so far, and it's just the preseason, but the loss to Pittsburgh. You don't want to see that because that's going to be a team that we're going to be competing with in the Stanley Cup, possibly. I mean, they're just another one of those contenders, and you don't like to see that one of the fellow top teams are someone that you lost to in comparison with Detroit and Washington.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things that I can't wait for someone to say is if the Hawks, let's say when the regular season starts, they get off to a slow start. I cannot wait for that first person to come out and say, oh, the Hawks only won the Cup last year because it was a lockout season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised there hasn't been more of it, to be honest, because that's the thing with the lockout season. They kind of get an asterisk next to it.
Nah, I don't think so.
I think...
Does LeBron get an asterisk next to his first?
Kind of, sort of. I mean, it's the lockout is not necessarily something you can ignore because it changes the game. The game is very different then.
You want to know why the Hawks don't get an asterisk?
Because they had record-breaking...
No. Because Detroit had a chance to finish the job and never got it done.
It's true. They should have been the ones to do it if it was going to be anyone.
Bye-bye. See you later. Have fun in the Eastern Conference.
So, I mean, is there an asterisk there? Yeah, depending on if you want to see it.
For hockey, I think it's different because and I never understood this until I actually started to watch hockey, I would hear hockey fans, hockey analysts, hockey players, oh, it's the hardest trophy to win in all of sports. And I'd be like, well, that doesn't fucking make sense. It's a trophy. You go out there and you play for it. But when you look at it, after watching NHL playoff hockey now I started in 2009, so just a few seasons in, the young blood like me, I can see this really is the hardest trophy to win because you look at the players that win it. There were players on this last Hawk team that held that cup like, I don't know if this might be the last time I hang on to this cup.
Yeah, and you get guys out there who you just see the emotion in their faces. And not that other players aren't the same way in other sports, but you can just see that joy and the way, almost like the pageantry of it, I guess, in a way. But it's something else. It's something different, and you can see just how much it means. And you see it with hockey when you get to the playoffs. It's anybody's game. And you can say that about any sport, but in most sports and basketball, you expect number one and number one, or maybe number one and number two to be there. Same thing with football most of the time, except for recently we've had some exceptions. But in hockey, I don't know who's going to get it. Is the number 8 seed going to beat the number 1 seed and go on and win the Stanley Cup?
Hockey is like the weird, because look at last year. Of course, the Hawks won, but Detroit was what, the 7th seed? They go up 3-1 on the Hawks. Hawks come back, win 3 straight, go on, win the cup.
It's tough. I mean, hockey, without a doubt, is an extremely physical sport. It's extremely difficult to play. It's difficult to manage, kind of game plan for. And you get that situation where all you have to do is make it in. And like I said, you can see it in some other sports, so I don't want people being angry about that statement. But how often do you see the very bottom seed in many sports go on and is such an impressive run like the Kings did? Mm-hmm. How often do you see something like that? How often do you see a team like the Red Wings go out and be moments away from knocking off the number 1?
Well, and I mean, one of the things you talked about, Ray Emery being the biggest player that you said the Hawks have lost. He goes to Philadelphia. He's going to be in a different jersey. They also lose Olise. Olise went ahead and signed with the New Jersey Devils. And you also have Stahlberg, left winger, signing with Nashville. With Stahlberg, though, that's a thing where I'm like, well, you got benched in the playoffs. Who cares? On top of it, we keep Hanzus. Hanzus comes back for another year. Roosevelt comes back for a 2-year contract. And above all, Brian Bickle, 4 years. He earned the contract. Now can he play at that same level with this $16 million contract?
And that's a huge thing right now. We got to look at Bickle and think, he was in his contract year. Is it going to decline a little bit, or is he going to keep playing at that level? That's a huge question for for Blackhawks fans to watch. Of course, with that being said, if he's got a rough time to begin with, let's not, throw the, we should have let him go.
And that's the thing about the Hawks in general. I said that I'm going to wait for those people that are like, oh, well, last season was a lockout season, that's why you won. I'm also waiting for those, and I'm going to say casual Hawk fans, because I don't think the diehards would act like this. I'm going to wait for those casual Hawk fans to be like, what? Whoa, we didn't start like this last season. Throw in the towel.
I mean, I think it was 2 years ago, we kind of had that rough season for a little bit. And there was a lot of people being like, got to get rid of Coach Q. Quenneville's got to go. He can't get it done.
There were people last year during the Detroit series that were talking about, get rid of Coach Q. Oh, what? We just won our 2nd cup.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's a guy who does fantastic jobs with this team. He can get it done. He's leading this team where people are thinking about using a certain word I don't want to use that starts with a D. And I mean,
I was going to ask that question, to be honest. I was going to say, because the word you're thinking, dynasty, right?
I have no comment on that. I might have been thinking that word, but I might not have.
This is the question I was going to propose in my head. It's super early. This is a huge if of a question. If the Hawks win the cup this year back-to-back, can you throw that word out there? Can you throw the dynasty word out there if we win the cup this year?
The thing about the dynasty word, I don't like to throw it around at 2. All right, just 2, not heavy about it. 3, then we can talk. Because the thing about 2
Are you talking in a row?
Oh, yeah, in a row. Because you get 2 in a row, that just goes, congratulations, you've had 2 impressive years.
See, I don't know, though, because, I mean, to me, I feel like hockey's different. Because how many times have you seen a team win back-to-back cups?
It's not that often. But here's my thing about what the difference between 2 and 3. 2, you have now 2 opportunities to lose a lot of guys. If you can do it a 3rd time, that shows that it doesn't really matter who you get in there. You will still be a good team, you still have a good system, and you still have great depth. You are getting people to play at your level. Because by the 3rd one, you've lost a good amount of people. There's a new amount of people on that team, and new depth players on that team as well. It just shows that you have a system that works. Where 2, it might just be on a few guys.
See, the one thing I'm thinking, and I've pulled up Stanley Cup final era. This is since 1915. The teams that have won the most cups. You got the Canadians at the top with 34 appearances. They have 24 wins in the Cup. Detroit Red Wings, they've been to 24 Cups. The Maple Leafs have been to 21. Bruins at 19. Blackhawks at 12. And the thing that sticks out to me, 2010, 2013, that is 2 Cups, 3 years. If you say 3 Cups in 4 years, even that back-to-back, you can throw a dynasty on this team because who has been, I know Antti Niemi was our goalie for the first one. Who cares? Taves, Kane, Hossa, Sharp. The core is there.
And it shows in a situation like we have right now, if there was to be the back-to-back right now, it shows that the front office knows what they're doing. The coaching staff knows what they're doing. They're getting the right guys in the system. And, I mean, it's an interesting thing because of the fact that you have your new guys. And you have different guys, not all, but some different guys from the first Stanley Cup and the one that we just won last year. So, I mean, it kind of throws a little bit of a wrench. I can admit that. It throws a little bit of a wrench in my argument with the just having 1 year off until we get back in. But, I mean, if you take a year off between all these Stanley Cup wins, I think it diminishes a little bit.
This is what I'm going to throw at you, and this is what I consider to be, yes, it's an 11-year gap, but this is as close as it gets to a dynasty in I'm going to say our lifetime in hockey, because obviously the Canadians, when they went like, what was it, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, and then 65, 66, all straight Stanley Cup wins for them in appearances. That to me is a dynasty in hockey. But the Red Wings, they go in 95, they lose. They go in 97, they win. 98, they win back-to-back. Then it takes them 4 years to get back to the Cup. 2002, they win. 2008, they win. That's 4 straight appearances, 4 straight wins.
I mean, I don't know. I think when you and there should be something said for going and losing. That's still quite the accomplishment.
It's the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, it's still a very big accomplishment. When you're going and winning back-to-back and you win that third one, for me, it's just that's the turning tide because right now you can carry the same team for 2 years, but then you're going to have guys who had their contract years and you're not going to be able to afford. Other people will pick them off of your team. After you've had people picked off of your team, can you go back and do it again?
See, and I don't know about you. When I think dynasty, whenever someone throws out the word dynasty, I think of 2 teams. The Bulls and the Patriots. Because you have the Bulls, 2 three-peats, both with Michael Jordan with a retirement in between. 2 years in baseball. The Patriots, you have the Tom Brady dynasty. I know he's still playing, but you have 96, 97, or I'm looking at AFC wins. Super Bowl champions. 2001, 2003, 2004. That wasn't back-to-back-to-back.
But the thing with that one, I think there is something...
But football's different.
Yeah, football's a little different than hockey. I mean, it's tough to compare the sports and dynasties with different sports. But, I mean, I don't know. It's a tough situation. I think with the dynasty word, it kind of depends on each team, and everyone has their different view of what a dynasty is. Because, I mean, there are people who would say that just getting there enough, and getting there 3-4 times in a period of 5 years, that's a dynasty, even though they don't win anything.
You know what I will say? We've been talking about the D word, dynasty, quite a lot in this podcast. I don't care whether or not if the Hawks win, great. I'm not going to throw out the dynasty word. But to me, this season, I am going home and I am praying every single night that we meet the Red Wings in the Stanley Cup and that we win. Because that, to me, is greater than a dynasty.
Yeah, I think it'll take a little bit of time before the Red Wings are ready to get up.
You don't think they'll come back?
They might be a playoff team, but I still don't think they're Stanley Cup potential.
You don't think Pavel Datsyuk has one more in him before he eventually hangs up the skates?
No, I really don't. I think like I said, they can get to the playoffs. I just don't think they are ready yet. Give them a couple years. Maybe they can get in then, but I just don't think they're ready just yet.
Because that's the one thing I will say about the Red Wings because now you got to think. We have the 4 divisions of the Eastern Conference is Atlantic Metropolitan. The West is Central Pacific. Detroit moves over to the East. Pavel Datsyuk, he's 35. He's been in the league 11 years. How many more years does he have in him for the Red Wings? How many more years?
I don't know. I mean, it's a tough question. Hockey's a brutal sport, but you see guys in hockey somehow hang on for a long time.
More so than football.
Yeah, I mean, he could get 2 years left. He could get 4 years left. I really am not sure on this situation.
I'm going to throw an over-under at you for the Blackhawks this season. We'll go more in depth about them next week, but I just want to throw one at you. For the Hawks this year, over-under Western Conference Finals.
That's a tough one. Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, it's difficult because over is the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, but it could be an appearance or a win is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Will they make the cup or win the cup, or will they not even get to the Stanley Cup or not even get to the Western Conference Finals this year? That's what I'm asking you.
I'm going to say I think they can get to the Western Conference Finals.
You don't think they can get to the cup?
I'm not as confident that they will win the Western Conference Finals and go back to the cup again.
I'm going to say it for all of Blackhawk Nation to hear me. There's a good chance the Hawks could repeat this year. We kept the core. We kept the guy that we needed to keep in Brian Bickle. If we can have half the success we had to start last season into this season, we'll be fine.
My main thing, and I said it before, we gotta watch Brian Bickle. He is the guy. Is he the real deal right now? Does he deserve the contract we gave him? That's the key. That's the key for this season.
Well, now we're going to move back into a little bit of football, more of a national scope, and the biggest story to come out of the NFL this week. It happened Wednesday night, Mark. I was in night class, and I looked at my phone after night class, and I saw that Colin Cowherd of ESPN tweeted a random tweet about the Cleveland Browns offense, and I'm sitting there going, why is he tweeting about the Browns offense? Whatever, I'm driving home. I get home, I turn on ESPN, Trent Richardson's been traded from the Browns to the Colts, and I'm sitting there going, what? Kind of like Rafi when it's the one scene I'm thinking when Ruxin's like, you got to go and pretend you're me and go to my son's swim class. And he goes, how long is this class? An hour? What? That's what I did. I put my hands on my head.
It made no sense to me, and I'm in a similar position to you. I saw it online, someone posted, and I see the thing, and it doesn't register in my mind. I see Trent Richardson to Indy for a first-round pick, and it just doesn't make sense.
Just a first-round pick. That's what throws me off.
Well, I'm sitting
just
there,
a first-rounder.
It doesn't make sense. He's a first-round guy you just got. You just got him. You're trading him already. I'm like, something's
Get
wrong.
more
I'm not
out of
reading this
him.
right. Well, I'm just like, it doesn't make sense why you would trade him in the first place. I mean, you're a rebuilding organization. He was the piece you were going to rebuild around. I mean, we don't know the full story. Maybe there was some issues with the coaching staff or something. But I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. You've admitted you're in rebuilding mode. Brandon Whedon's been told, we're not sure if you're our starting quarterback now.
Mm-hmm.
You skipped over Campbell. You went straight to Hoyer, which is an interesting decision. Probably, I'm guessing it's just to see what he can give. So it's obvious that they want a quarterback in this draft coming up. Whether they have to package some of these picks, maybe both first-round picks to move up, or maybe they get a wide receiver and a quarterback. I don't know. I mean, this is a team that needs a serious rebuild.
See, and this is the thing that confuses me. I did a little bit of research, and I went back into the history books. Yes, you say that they just got Trent Richardson, but how did they get Trent Richardson?
They traded picks for him.
They got him via a trade, and they sent Minnesota. Minnesota wasn't going to go for Trent Richardson. They were going to go for Matt Khalil, but Cleveland, for some godforsaken reason, said, we're going to give you our 5th round pick, our 4th round pick, or they gave them the 1st, 4th, 5th, and 7th. All in the 2012 draft.
2012 was dedicated to Trent Richardson.
And that's what got them Trent Richardson. What players did they give up? Well, the Vikings, obviously, with the 4th pick overall, selected Matt Khalil, the guy they were going to select with the 3rd pick. With the 4th round pick, they picked up Julius Wright. You know, he had a pretty good season last year for the Vikings catching those fly routes. Then the Vikings got Robert Blanton, a safety out of Notre Dame. It's a 5th round pick, though, whatever. And then the 7th round pick they traded to the Tennessee Titans. So you got to think, you gave up 4 picks just to get Richardson, and you're going to get maybe a low 20s pick, maybe a high 20s pick at the worst.
My only thing I'm thinking about this, they have 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks.
Yeah, so
it's just, let's get a bunch of young guys who are decent, or good at least, you'd hope. Let's just get them on our roster and let's just start over. This is 100% start over, so much so that it's been said by the Browns organization, everybody, literally everybody, is up for trade. Everybody's on the block.
I was going to bring that up.
Start naming offers.
Joe Thomas, in an ESPN article, it says, the headline is Joe Thomas, no one, and in quotes, untouchable. And one of the quotes they highlight, Thomas says, and I quote, about the only people safe are the ones that came here this year in the 1st round that were drafted by the guys that are making the calls right now. That's the way it is, end quote.
Exactly. I mean, these are guys, we've said it before, even with Mark Trestman. Coaches want their guy, and they want their guys in this situation. The Cleveland Browns, they've admitted right now, and this is something you don't see that often, they've admitted, we're not going to win anything soon. We're not going to win anything in 5 years. We're not going to win anything in the kind of distant future. Mm-hmm. We are starting from square one. We will give anything to just get young guys so that way when they're in the league for 4 or 5 years, then we will have enough built up with these young guys to where they're all there at the same time, and then we can make a run.
Okay, I'm going to throw this out here because, yes, I know I'm putting a disclaimer out here right now. I know it's early to be talking about 2014 mock drafts, but with Cleveland, with this deal, that's what you got to be talking about. And what surprises me here is the 2 mock drafts that were updated maybe 2 days ago on CBSSports.com. Both of them are projecting that the Browns will have the 2nd pick in the draft. And with that pick, if he comes out, they will take Brett Hundley, quarterback, UCLA, over Johnny Manziel. And then with that pick that they just traded, they're saying that the Colts will be the 16th pick in the draft. Don't know how true that'll be. We'll see when it happens. One of the drafts is saying Sammy Watkins, wide receiver out of Clemson. The other one is saying Ifo Ike Aloma, cornerback, Oregon. I hope I said that name right, by the way.
You know, it is early. We got to remember, I think you go wide receiver, quarterback. And here's why.
Wide receiver first?
Wide receiver first.
Over the quarterback? Because you have Wheaton.
No.
I'm just confused.
The best wide receiver is going to be off the board by the time you get your 2nd pick.
Honestly, this mock draft, and I'm putting out a disclaimer. I know it's early to be talking mock drafts, but before Watkins was even selected in this draft, they have Marquise Lee going, Southern Cal. They say he's going to go to the Raiders. We'll see how true that is. And the only other, Sammy Watkins, 2nd wide receiver, also off topic, but I think it'd be interesting storyline. Who do they have Chip Kelly and the Eagles selecting? Oh, yeah, that's right. If he comes out, quarterback from Oregon.
He wants his guy. But here's my thing about this.
Going back to the Browns.
Yeah, going back to the Browns. By the time that 2nd pick goes up, the odds are the best wide receivers are going to be gone. The best number 1, the best number 2 will probably be gone. You might get that shot at the 3rd guy, but...
Yeah.
So anyways, I think you should take that first because of there's going to be quarterbacks out there. And yeah, it's risky because who did they take late in the 1st round the last time? Brandon Weeden. And he's done.
Yeah, but Brandon Weeden was, and this is the thing about Brandon Weeden, I think this is what we're seeing in the NFL. He was, 29, 30 when he was in, or was he 28?
He was like 28.
28, now he's 30. 28 when he was in college. The typical college senior is how old? Maybe like 22, 23 at the most. Maybe if you're like a guy like Corey Lewis at Illinois where you're getting that 6th year of eligibility because of injuries, then you might see a 23-year-old out there. So he is about at the least 5 to 6 years on these guys. You're seeing that kind of gap in talent where he's older, he can do more things, he has more knowledge. He gets to the NFL, and you kind of lose that because he kind of – it's like if Broxton Miller went up and said, hey, I'm going to play high school football for a week. He'd demolish. He'd be great, but when he came back to college, he'd be Miller.
My understanding is, I mean, it's nervous. Browns fans will be nervous with whatever quarterback they take. That's a fact because Browns fans don't. Well, the Browns organization has very bad luck with quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, I think
didn't they draft Tim Couch?
They've done a lot of dumb things with quarterbacks. You can just look at the list of quarterbacks they've had in the past 10 years, and it's about 30.
Did they have Trent Dilfer at one time?
I think
I know they had
have.
Seneca Wallace.
Yeah, they've had a lot of bad guys. But so you can get a guy who's good. And one guy specifically, once again, super early. But if the claims are true, and I know you don't believe this, Ricky, but if the claims are true that a lot of NFL organizations have already deemed Johnny Manziel undraftable and have taken him off of their board already.
You know what I see with Johnny Manziel? I see this. He's going to be like Kirk Cousins. People are going to be like, oh, I don't want to draft him because of his off-the-field issues. Someone's going to be crazy enough to take him. And I say crazy enough, but in my mind, it's
not that crazy.
It's not crazy.
Especially once you get into like third round.
One coach is going to be like, I am taking a stab on him with a second round pick, I'll say, and they're going to come out geniuses.
And I think that it's the Cleveland Browns. I think they can. That's why I say get your wide receiver first. You can get Johnny Manziel late in the first round without a doubt. He will be there, barring any incredible heroics, and we see him mature or whatever, or just that report is incorrect. I don't know, but you can get him, and I would love to see Johnny Football, the guy with the name, play in the state where Canton, Ohio is, obviously.
You're talking about Cleveland? You're talking about play for Cleveland.
You're playing for Cleveland, but playing for the state where football is, where the Hall of Fame is. Johnny Football in the state, which I think, when I think of football in one state, I think of Ohio.
I find this funny, though, because Dave, who isn't here tonight, he has said the thing with the Browns, give them a mobile quarterback.
It'll do wonders
and
for
they
them.
could do wonders, and then they go out and trade Trent Richardson. So I'm like, well, obviously
Trent
they're
Richardson
not
plus
following.
mobile quarterback won't work.
Plus, they're not. I'm like, well, obviously they're not following Dave's plan. But I'm looking here at former Browns quarterbacks, and they're not great. And they have them sorted by how many games they started. I mean, Otto Graham, he's probably in a different category. But I mean, Tim Couch, Derek Anderson, Vinny Testaverde after his Jet days. Colt McCoy. Yeah, Colt McCoy was a high draft pick for them. Trent Dilfer, Jeff Garcia. You have the list goes on and on. Luke McCown.
And it doesn't stop. It continues. And the thing about the Cleveland Browns is Ohio is like we said, Canton, Ohio. That's where the Hall of Fame is. You know, the Hall of Fame game. The football season starts in Ohio. Ohio should be
Brady Quinn.
Ohio is supposed to be like the heart of football.
Charlie Fry.
And because
I'm
of
just
the
throwing
Cleveland
out more
Browns, I know you are, and you could just continue
Kelly
for like
Holcomb.
10 more minutes.
Kelly Holcomb.
But because like Cleveland, or not necessarily specifically Cleveland, but Ohio is supposed to be the heart of football. And it's not. It's not because Cleveland can never do it. And Cincinnati, they're trying.
Cincinnati's getting there, though.
Yeah, but
how are they getting there? They drafted a guy like Dalton, which Dalton, I would say, similar to Brandon Weeden, except for the age. He came from a Big 12 school that wasn't top of the Big 12, but Andy Dalton did good things. He beat, I think it was Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl.
The difference between Cincinnati and Cleveland is their
Factory of Sadness.
Well, the Factory of Sadness, of course. It's hard to compete against, but they mask the flaws of Andy Dalton very well. They put him around talented players.
They give him A.J. Green, and the tight end weapons of Gresham and Eifert, and now you have, look at what the running back out of North Carolina they drafted this past year, Giovanni Bernard.
And who is Hoyer going to have out there? Exactly.
You know what? And I'm saying this as a Vikings fan, Hoyer's starting, Trent Richardson's not there. If the Vikings lose this week, season's over. Just Minnesota, pack it in because we're done.
Exactly. Well, with that being said, I think we should get to our pick'ems because we're getting to that point.
Well, before that, I want to throw out, we talked about the Browns side, Trent Richardson's side of the trade. Mm-hmm. How is he going to do in Indy? How is Indy going to do with him?
Give him a couple weeks, but it's going to be great. There's no reason right now why Indianapolis should miss any playoffs in the near future because that offense is set up perfectly. As they build that defense, this team, get like 2 years, Indianapolis Colts can win a Super Bowl.
I'm going to say one thing about this, and it's kind of going to go back. I'm going to kind of seem like a genius when I didn't really know that this trade was going to happen.
You were predicting the future.
What did how high? I can't remember. How high did I have the how high did I have the Colts finishing in the AFC? I can't remember, Mark.
Number 2 seed.
Yeah, number 2, and I also made a big claim that said that the AFC Championship game, Denver versus Indy at Mile High Stadium, and I'm looking at this trade and I'm looking like it's going to happen if all the pieces fit like they should.
The one thing that hurts Indianapolis, of course, is the defense. They don't have much of a defense.
Yeah, but I mean, Peyton Manning, I mean, true, he did play with the, I'm trying to think of the Bob Sanders defense, the Dwight Freeney defense. They had a pretty good defense when Peyton Manning was there. There's only one thing this week in the sports media that I got pissed off at this Trent Richardson talk. One question sent me over the edge. And I want to say it was either ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I'm leaning towards ESPN that asked it. No, it wasn't that. It was NBC. NBC on Sunday Night Football. They asked the question. No. Wasn't it? I don't know who it was. They asked the question.
Somebody said something.
I'm leaning towards ESPN. They said that could we compare Luck and Richardson to Manning and Edgerrin James?
Well, they're going to. People are going to, obviously. I don't know yet, though. I mean, that's a question that can't be answered until we see them play together.
This is what I feel about this question. First off, why are you comparing Andrew Luck to Peyton Manning? Peyton Manning, he's
the successor. It's going to happen.
He built Indianapolis. Lucas Oil Stadium, he built it. He trained those fans. Andrew Luck's first game, Andrew Luck didn't have to do nothing because once he got the ball, once he stepped out to that line, everybody got quiet. Everybody got quiet. Nobody made a sound. And the announcers even said, wow, Peyton Manning really trained this crowd because they get quiet on offense and they don't make a peep when Andrew Luck's on the field. This is a different Colts team. And I mean, yes, Reggie Wayne is still there, but it's not I'm going to say this, it's not your dad's Indianapolis Colts.
It's not. It's a different team. That's why we got to wait. We got to wait and see right now. And are they a good team? Yeah, without a doubt they're a good team. They're a playoff team. They just went to the playoffs last year. I mean, they can get things done. They've got the talent. The only thing holding them back is that defense, and as the couple of years go by, that's going to get fixed.
I'm going to say, though, I think there is a good chance, a really good chance, that the Colts, second best team in the AFC, with this trade. And the one thing I'm throwing out, kind of bringing it back to the Browns, last year the Colts only went a little bit into the playoffs, 24th pick overall. There's no reason why that pick shouldn't be between 25 and 30 for the Browns next draft.
Yeah, and that's not. I mean, yeah, it's still a first-round pick. You're still getting first-round talent. But you're not thrilled. I mean, you just improved the team that you get a first pick out of. You just set that draft pick back.
I'm going to name the people that went between 25 and 30 in last year's draft. Xavier Rhodes, not bad. Dante Jones, defensive end, UCLA. DeAndre Hopkins, wide receiver, Clemson. Pretty good. Sylvester Williams. Cordell Patterson. Pretty good. And Alec Ogletree.
I mean, it's the first round. You're going to be able to get talent. you don't have a sure thing.
You're
like
just not
going to
get
have
that
at the beginning.
I will throw this out. You might not get that sexy pick.
Yeah, exactly.
Alec Ogletree, not a sexy pick.
It would have been if you were in Chicago.
Xavier Rhodes, that's a different story because of how many first-round picks the Vikings had. But Indianapolis Colts, Warner, not a sexy pick. It's a good pick, not a sexy pick. It's not your Cam Newton first overall.
And it's a situation for Cleveland. They need something to be excited about. Trent Richardson was that. He was something for them to be excited about. And
Factor of sadness.
It's gone.
You know what I will compare the Browns to? The Aints. Pull out the brown bags that say I couldn't sell my tickets. No one would buy them because no one wants to go.
Yeah, it breaks your heart sometimes. That organization really needs to pull something around, without a doubt.
Well, and you mentioned it, Mark. We're going to get to our pick'ems, and we're just going to go right through them this week. Not a lot of discussion. First one we'll throw out there. We talked about them. They traded Trent Richardson. Browns at Vikings.
Well, the Browns don't have anything. So if the Vikings, like you said, if the Vikings lose this one, say goodbye. Just hang up the cleats. The Vikings have to win.
Vikings, it is a must-win. I think the Vikings will pull out the win. I'm going Vikes.
Exactly. Me as well.
Next one. We're staying in the NFC North, but they are on the road. Packers traveling to Cincinnati to play Andy Dalton and the Bengals.
You know, I think that Aaron Rodgers will have some trouble in this game because of that pass rush. With that being said, I don't feel all that confident that even with Eddie Lacy being hurt, that the Bengals are going to be able to stop Aaron Rodgers, especially when they had such a hard time stopping Jay Cutler when it mattered. Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback than Jay Cutler. You can arguably say they got a better wide receiver core than we do. So I'm going to go with the Packers on this one.
I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to go with the Bengals. The Bengals showed a lot of good things against the Steelers. Yes, it was a struggling Steelers team, but the one thing I want to see from the Packers is James Starks. I traded you in fantasy after picking you up because I think last week was a fluke. If he's not a fluke, Packers win, but I think this Bengals defense stops him cold. Next, we got Rams at Cowboys.
Interesting one. Are the Cowboys for real? That's the question. Is the NFC East anything to, pay attention to, or is
Eagles.
it just a joke?
Eagles.
I'm going to go with Sam Bradford and the Rams. Getting it done.
I'm going with the boys. I mean, the Rams to me are still that team that's not quite there. I think that Tony Romo and guys, they get it together and they look more like that team that beat down the Giants.
Until the second half.
Than the team that lost. I think they lost to the Chiefs last week.
Yeah, they, I don't know. They're a team that looks good sometimes. Other times, it's rough.
Next one up, AFC matchup, Chargers-Titans.
For this one, I do not trust Phillip Rivers. I just don't. I don't trust him. He throws the ball to not receivers. So this one, I'm taking my Titans on this one.
I'm going to have to disagree. I'm going Chargers. Eddie Royal has been a fantasy beast. If he's not picked up in your league, he probably is by now. But if he's not, go ahead and snatch him. He is Phillip Rivers' #1 target. He's going to get the touchdowns. Chargers, they get the win. Next, Buccaneers, Patriots.
Ooh, this is interesting because Tom Brady. Come on, Tom Brady. You're my fantasy quarterback. You know we got a close relationship. Why can't you get it done for me?
He's getting wins. That's all that counts.
He is getting wins, but every time you sit there and you're just terrified of what's going to happen.
Gronk might come back this week. He's a game time.
And if he does, I think that'll be fantastic for this Patriots team that needs some spark on offense.
Fantasy owners rejoice.
It's tough. I'm going to go with the guys who should get it done, the Patriots, even though I'm not confident in the pick.
The one thing that will play big dividends in this game, and this is what's going to come down for the Buccaneers. How many turnovers can you force Tom Brady to throw with this, I'm going to say inexperienced receiver core? I think the Patriots get it done, but if the Bucs can get some turnovers, they could pull out their first win of the season. Next game, Cardinals-Saints.
Cardinals and Saints. It's another interesting one because of, obviously, Patrick Peterson, Honey Badger. That defense is great. And Carson Palmer, he can compete with Drew Brees.
Yeah, but you got to look on the other side. You say Drew Brees. Drew Brees last week, he overcame a storm delay. He overcame a pick six to start the game. The Saints are looking like, who dat? Who dat? That's Sean Payton on the sidelines. I'm going with the Saints in this one.
Sean Payton is probably the difference maker on this one. I agree with you on that. Him being back is just, it does wonders for the Saints. It's going to be close. I can even see a shootout. I'm going to go with the Saints.
And then our next game, Lions at Redskins. The Redskins looking the way they've described it because I have Joik Bell on my fantasy team, the way the fantasy experts are describing this Redskins defense, porous.
Yeah, there's nothing good about the Redskins right now. And RG3 isn't even healthy. You can tell. It's obvious he's not healthy. The Lions...
Kirk Cousins, he's going to get starting soon.
He very well might. And part of the reason why is because RG3 might be on the floor again.
Especially after this game.
And the Lions, yep, exactly. There's going to be somebody... And I'm not saying that it's Ndamukong Suh.
I'm going to say it's Ndamukong Suh. He might be a dirty player, but he's going after the quarterback.
And he's going to get to the quarterback. Lions got this one.
I couldn't agree more. I'm picking the Lions as well. Next one on the slate, Giants 0-2, Panthers 0-2.
Another one of those fun 0-2 matchups.
There's a few of them this week.
There really are. As bad as the Panthers have kind of been, at least the Panthers kind of keep it close. I don't really have any faith in the Giants to do anything. Eli Manning is sitting there frustrated as hell. Tom Coughlin's sitting there going, I got to deal with the fire Coughlin talk again. No, it's going to go to the Panthers.
Either one or two things are going to happen in this game. One, the Giants finally get it going and say, hey, you know what? We're the New York Football Giants. Or Cam Newton comes out and has that, the one thing that every fantasy owner, I'm relating everything to fantasy football tonight, the one thing that the fantasy experts are saying is we're waiting for Cam Newton to have that breakout game. He's had 16 points here, 15 there. Where's that 30 game? Where's that Michael Vick game? If he doesn't have it, Giants win, and I'm going with the Giants. Texans-Ravens, Ed Reed coming back to Baltimore.
Oh, yeah, he's going to have a great time against Joe Flacco. He's going to make Joe Flacco wish that he just stayed home. Texans... Yeah, I don't believe in Schaub, but I don't believe in Flacco either. Texans going to get this one done.
I agree with you, and I'm going with a different spin on it. Ray Rice, he's hurt. Even if he is a little bit even if he plays and is just a little bit ineffective, Texans get the win. I'm going with the T-men, I'm going to call them. Next up, Falcons-Dolphins.
This is a fun one because the Dolphins are surprising some people. I mean, we kind of were high on the Dolphins. But
yeah, except for when they fumbled to start the preseason.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's... But for this one, especially for the Dolphins being 2-0 and the Patriots obviously 2-0, they want to win this one. They want to win against a big team. Unfortunately, the Falcons are a difficult team. Have fun going up against them. I don't see it happening. I'm going to go with the Falcons.
Steven Jackson, he's hurt. How can Snelling fill in for him? Expect Julio Jones to have a huge fantasy day, but the Dolphins get the win. They go 3-0 before playing Who Dat Nation next week. Another AFC East matchup, Bills. They're 1-1. E.J. Manuel, fourth quarter comeback. Geno Smith, 1-1, fourth quarter comeback. Who gets it done this week?
This is a great one because you know Geno Smith wants to beat E.J. Manuel. You know it because E.J. Manuel, first round pick. Geno Smith, not so much. So, the thing is, the Bills are a better team than the Jets.
I'm going with the Bills. I'm just going to say it right now. I'm going with the Bills and EJ.
I'm going right with you. It's all about the Bills in this one.
Well, we talked about him being traded from the Browns to the Colts. Colts going to Candlestick. Who wins, Colts or Niners?
This one's about the Niners. They need a win right now. After that embarrassing loss to the Seahawks, they have to go out and crush somebody.
I'm going to agree with you, but I'm going to say that the thing you said about Richards maybe needing a week or two to get acclimated in Indy might be so. He's on the road against the Niners team that wants to make up for a dreadful loss against the Seattle Seahawks. And moving right along, Seahawks, they stay at home. They probably have the best matchup this week against the 0-2 Jaguars.
How many interceptions can the Seahawks get? That's the
5.
question here.
I'm hoping 0 because I'm playing you in fantasy.
And I do have my Seahawks defense going right up against you. So, yeah, Jaguars is going to be miserable. I'm sorry, Jaguar fans, if there are any.
I'm going to say I'm going with the Seahawks in this one, duh. But the one thing I want to throw out there is I saw a YouTube video from a guy who was just a random Florida fan. He said the Jaguars were going to, and when I say Florida, I mean the college. He said Jaguars were going to win 17-12.
Good luck with that one. Here's a fun thing about the Jaguars that needs to be said. There was whatever station down there was playing the Jaguars game, literally had on the bottom, on the ticker, an apology for playing the game, apologizing because they have no choice. They
were
play.
Playing that over the Manning Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. That's sad. That's how you know that team is bad.
So we're both going Seahawks. And then the Sunday night game, we talked about it earlier, Bears. We're both in agreement with the Bears. And then the Monday night game, Raiders at Peyton Manning's Broncos.
I think that Terrell Pryor is going to have a big time in fantasy.
But
that's because Peyton Manning's going to be up early and often.
I'm going to throw another over-under at you. Over-under 7 touchdowns for Peyton Manning this week.
Oh,
Can he match it?
No, it'll be under.
He's not going to match it against the Raiders?
I say I'll give him 5 at the most.
I'll give him 7. Peyton Manning going to have a week this week in fantasy. Broncos go 3-0.
I'll give him 30. Just throw some touchdowns at him. Yeah, I agree with you. Broncos got this one. No doubt about it.
Well, that's going to do it this week for the Onside Kick. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Check out our other videos. Leave a comment down below. We love talking to you about the sports that we bring to you every single day, every single week, every single moment of our beautiful lives. Also, don't forget to check us out on fansidedradio.com and hit that like button on that page as well. And as always, have a good day, everybody.